Hi, welcome to the Japanese Beetle Eradication Team video. My name is Jake Bodart, and I'm the manager for Insect Pest Prevention and Management.
Hi, my name is Jessica Rendon, and I'm the Japanese Beetle Eradication Specialist.
Hi, I'm Max Ragazzino. I'm a biocontrol entomologist at Oregon Department of Agriculture working on the Japanese Beetle Eradication Project.
Hi, my name is Austin Johnson. I'm the Japanese Beetle Outreach Coordinator here at ODA.
This presentation will provide the most recent information involving Oregon's Japanese beetle eradication. We will cover a brief background of the Japanese beetle, where we are at now, what's at stake for Oregon, products we use, the yard debris quarantine, and what treatment day will look like. Originally from Japan, the Japanese beetle was introduced to New Jersey in 1916. Since then, it has gradually spread westward and now infests over 40 states. The Japanese beetle attacks over 300 different species of plants. In fact, the Japanese beetle is considered the single most destructive turfgrass pest in the United States.
This picture shows the life cycle of the Japanese beetle. In summer, adult female beetles lay eggs in the soil. These eggs hatch into grubs. Grubs then feed on the roots of turf grasses and other plants. During the winter months, they migrate deeper into the soil to overwinter. The following spring, the grubs migrate up to the root zone and continue to feeding. Around May, the grubs pupate. Around June, the full-grown adults emerge out of the soil and begin to feed on plant foliage. Because Japanese beetle larvae are hidden within the soil, including the soil of potted plants, they can be moved very easily without realizing it. Because of this, the Japanese beetle can spread through a number of pathways, including nursery stock, commercial cargo planes, long-haul trucks, shipping containers, and residents moving from infested states to Oregon, and bringing their outdoor plants with them. We often are asked, how can you identify a Japanese beetle? The Japanese beetle is the only beetle in Oregon that has all three of these characteristics. A metallic green thorax, reddish-brown wing covers, and 5 patches of white hair along the side of its abdomen, and 2 on the tip of its abdomen. There are a few other beetles and insects in the area, both native and non-native, that are also metallic or otherwise look similar. Some of the most common lookalikes that are reported to us include ground beetles, jewel beetles, box elder bugs, and stink bugs.
In 2016, a Japanese beetle infestation was detected in the Cedar Mill area of Washington County. We found 369 beetles in that area. This represents the largest total number of beetles ever found in Oregon in a single field season up until that point. After forming a scientific advisory panel comprised of USDA entomologists and Japanese beetle management experts, ODA initiated a large-scale eradication program specifically targeting the Japanese beetle infestation in the Cedar Mill area. In 2017, we began our first year of treatment in that area. By the end of the Japanese beetle season in October 2017, we had caught 23,454 beetles across a much larger area than the original treatment area. In the 4 years since then, we have continued our fight against the beetle and found only 4,490 beetles in 2020. However, the beetle's range has continued to expand. Originally found across 1,000 acres, it is now found across 4,800 acres and includes regions of the Portland metro area. During the 2020 trapping season, we discovered new populations in East Portland and Lake Oswego. Both sites are several miles from the original infestation. We cannot be certain how the beetle has spread to these isolated pockets, but we do have a few possible theories. It could be due to plant exchanges, residents moving across town bringing outdoor potted plants with them, or also via landscapers taking yard debris from the quarantine zone to other regions before dropping them off at the yard debris drop-off site. Here is a summary of beetle catches in the Cedar Mill area since 2016. As you can see, we have been making steady progress towards eradicating the Japanese beetle. For example, last year in 2020, we saw a 44% reduction in beetle catches from the year prior in 2019. This reduction in beetle numbers is due to our granular and foliar treatments that we apply within the treatment area, and we'll go over that shortly. We also find beetles at PDX and the surrounding areas. We also treat these areas. If we can continue to reduce the overall Japanese beetle population as we've had these last 4 years, while keeping these new smaller pockets in check, we stand a good chance of eradicating this beetle from Oregon.
If the Japanese beetle are allowed to establish in Oregon, there would be profound negative impacts to our state agricultural industry, including our plant nursery industry, and our state's great diversity of field and orchard crops. These industries are estimated to have a production value of over $2 billion annually. If the beetles were to establish, this would result in costly export quarantines as well as significant crop damages. It is estimated that these combined costs would exceed $43 million annually. If the Japanese beetle are allowed to establish in Oregon, there would also be a substantial increase in the amount of pesticides applied to these crops used in order to control the beetles. Oregon cities, residential yards, parks, and wildlands are all susceptible to Japanese beetle. More specifically, areas such as personal yards, golf courses, cemeteries, grassy parks, and other businesses are prime targets. Here are a few examples of the damage that Japanese beetle can inflict on residential areas. Japanese beetle larvae feed in the soil on the roots of grass and other plants. Feeding on grass causes brown splotches, and the adults feed on foliage which skeletonizes the leaves and flowers of various plants.
Since 2016, we have been treating infested areas with Acelepryn G. Acelepryn G is a granular product applied to lawns and ornamental planting beds. It is a reduced-risk insecticide, meaning that it poses a very low health risk to people, pets, children, and other wildlife. The active ingredient in Acelepryn G is called chlorantraniliprole. When eaten by Japanese beetle larvae in the soil, it interrupts the normal activity of their muscles, resulting in death. The EPA has determined that Acelepryn G falls into a low toxicity category by all routes of exposure, including eating, breathing, and skin and eye contact. This means that unlike with many other pesticides, the EPA does not require Acelepryn G to have a signal word on its package. The EPA has determined that its active ingredient, chlorantraniliprole, is neither neurotoxic, carcinogenic, nor teratogenic. There have also been no reports of allergic reaction or pesticide poisoning from chlorantraniliprole. In 2014, the EPA determined with reasonable certainty that no harm will result to the general population or to infants or children from exposure to chlorantraniliprole residues. In fact, to exceed the EPA's maximum acceptable daily dose, a toddler would need to eat more than 4 pounds of Acelepryn G treated soil daily for 90 days to exceed maximum daily dose limits. It is unlikely that even direct exposure to chlorantraniliprole, when used according to directions on the label, will result in adverse health effects to humans or animals. The EPA has allowed registration of other products that contain chlorantraniliprole to be registered for the use on food crops such as peaches, plums, and artichokes. In 2019, we began using a liquid foliar application of Acelepryn to target adult beetles. We used this foliar spray as a complement to the granular ground treatment in areas that had the highest beetle density. We have seen up to a 70% decrease in beetle populations in these areas where we do the foliar spray. This foliar spray application has the same active ingredient, chlorantraniliprole, as the granular treatment, and has the same minimal risks.
Other steps we have taken include enacting a yard debris quarantine. A large portion of the Cedar Mill treatment area is also under this yard debris quarantine. This is in place to restrict the movement of high-risk yard debris to currently unaffected locations in the state. This means that areas that are within the quarantine zone cannot freely move plant material out of the area. Any plants or yard debris must remain on site, be placed in your standard yard waste bin, or be taken to the approved drop-off site. This also means that local garden clubs cannot have plant sales that move plants out of this area. ODA also works with all curbside waste disposal services in the Cedar Mill quarantine area. This allows residents to place yard debris in their curbside bin, which is then taken to the Hillsborough landfill for deep burial. We do this to decrease the chance that beetles will be transported via yard debris to the surrounding area. We also partner with Best Buy in town and have established a yard debris drop-off site at their facility. This site allows residents and landscapers with large loads of acceptable plant material from the quarantine area to be safely dropped off at one location before it is taken to the Hillsborough landfill for deep burial. This again reduces the risk of spreading the beetle to multiple sites.
You can help us eradicate the Japanese beetle in a few ways. You can visit us online at japanesebeetlepdx.info and use our online map to see if you are in the treatment area and yard debris quarantine area. If so, you must adhere to the yard debris restrictions. If you are within the treatment area, please be sure to check your email and mailbox. Every year, ODA sends out letters and email notifications to residents within the treatment area with details about the project, along with a consent form. Consent forms must be promptly filled out and returned to us via the enclosed business reply envelope or by entering it online. A response is required. That through the past 4 years of treatment, we had roughly 98% of residents consenting to the treatment. If you are outside the treatment and yard debris quarantine areas, please be on the lookout for the Japanese beetle. While we do place Japanese beetle traps throughout the state every year, having residents also be our eyes on the ground is extremely helpful. If you think you found a Japanese beetle outside this area, please email or call us with a picture of what you saw.
Leading up to the time of treatment, you can expect several things to occur. First, you will receive a notification at least 72 hours before the scheduled treatment, indicating which day we intend to treat your property. On the day of treatment, for the safety of our crew, we ask that people keep their dogs inside between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. If this is not possible, please indicate that on your consent form and we will do our best to contact you right before treatment. Most treatment take between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on the size of the property. Once treatment is complete, you may immediately re-enter your yard. We do ask that it is watered in as soon as possible to ensure its maximum effectiveness. If you have any questions, you may visit us at our website, japanesebeetlepdx.info, or email us at japanesebeetle@oda.state.or.us, or you can call us at 503-986-4636. We look forward to another successful year in battling the Japanese beetle.